Dating coach Didi Edet is the founder of Lagos Matchmaker. She's been helping single people in Nigeria try to find meaningful romance in lockdown.
The COVID lockdown started in March in Nigeria here. And in March, we had like a huge spike in people that were wanting to date. So we started something called Dating in Quarantine, which was like an online speed dating, since there was no other way to meet people. So people came online and met in groups, and a lot of relationships started from there. So that was something that was really positive from the COVID.
So does that mean for you, Didi, single people are more focused on finding someone?
Yes, they're more focused now because everyone is indoors. There are no social spaces open, and because of the whole social distance, so people are forced to be at home, and they do take the time to get to know people more now. There's no pressure of any physical interaction, so you do get to know the person for who they really are.
Carolyn Hacks, you hear about all sorts of situations, and if I can ask you about people who are in relationships already, what has pandemic done? What are you hearing about most?
I think the pandemic has intensified whatever you have. And so if you are in a relationship that is a little bit suffocating, then you're to the point of desperation now. If you felt a little bit alienated, then you feel like you never talk. I think people who are together want some space. I think people who are alone want to be together. It's just too, wherever, it's almost like people were frozen exactly where they were when this started. And so you have too much of whatever you were frozen with.
And you referred to the fact, Didi, that it's more about talking. You can't get physical so quickly. So I suppose you've got to have the skills to talk to somebody new.
Yes, and it's making a lot more creative ways to date. People are attending concerts online together. They're having the video dates where you send food to your date and you guys eat together and have a glass of wine. There's so many creative ways to date that we never thought about till now. So it's been really exciting to see what's been happening with all this. When COVID is over and everything goes back to normal, I think a lot of first dates still might happen over video and online and might not happen as much in restaurants and social spaces anymore.
If people are being forced to get to know each other and have conversations at arm's length and to try to get to know each other intellectually, that can't hurt, I think. It slows things down. And I think one of the markers of a dangerous relationship is that it happens very quickly. So this might actually end up being a benefit in the long run if people get used to dating more slowly.
Yeah, definitely. That's like the major, the testimonials have had deeper connections. We've always had relationships start off and end really quickly.
I smile a lot.
But right now, the relationships forming have had deeper connections because there's no physical pressure. You're just getting to know the person. You get to see where they live, their living space. You get to see so much about the person before you get to see them. So this prolonged courtship is definitely in everyone's favor when it comes to dating.
Carolyn Hacks, you talked about people getting stuck where they are. Do you think there's a lot of realization going on? People finding out things about partners they might have known for a long time?
People hearing their partner's work personas because they're working from home, and they're overhearing meetings, and they can't believe that they married somebody who says, I'm going to circle back. Or I actually got a question from somebody saying that her husband often used to come home from work to complain about what was going on. And she's realized through overhearing him that he's the problem. And she didn't know whether she should tell him that she's realized that in all of the stories he was telling about problems at work, that he was the one causing them. I'm also seeing a lot of people who are laid off or unemployed around all the time. And that's driving the partner crazy because their relationship worked because they were apart 40, 50 hours a week. And so it's been eye-opening for a lot of people.
Carolyn, we are talking about the stresses of pandemic and lockdown, but have you seen positive takeaways as well? Kind of meaningful changes for the better?
Absolutely. I think one of the things this whole situation has done is force people to reckon with things that they didn't want to think about. And I almost said this in response to the last question, that sometimes getting bad information about people can be useful anyway. It's painful. But I think when people are realizing that they had problems they weren't dealing with, and now they're forced to deal with them, I think people are going in better directions for themselves where possible. And again, this is, I don't want to overstate it, because there's what's going on is terrifying and devastating and financially difficult. But people are really trying. It's a real human spirit test, and people are trying to make something of it.
Looking at the dark side or the difficult side, Carolyn Hacks, I've read your column since I moved to the States back in '97, and you do quite often in your columns ring alarm bells about situations that people are in.
Yes, and there are people right now in some dangerous situations. On Fridays, I do a live online chat, and a woman wrote in from an abusive situation, and she was with her partner, and the lockdown came just as she was about to leave. She had all of her plans, and then they all just washed away suddenly, and so she was in this dangerous situation. And over several Fridays, I say we because also readers were making suggestions, because we can do that in the live forum, and she ended up connecting with domestic violence support groups, and she ended up getting out, but it took weeks, and it was terrifying. I mean, she had options, but they were very limited all of a sudden. And I think this is not uncommon. I think people, again, their safety is in being able to circulate, being able to get away, being able to see a friend, being able to go to work. And when all those things were closed off, some people found themselves very quickly in big trouble.
Carolyn, you've been giving advice for a long time now, and through some periods of great uncertainty and change and national trauma. But given the fact that we're going through or have gone through lockdown, does this feel different from anything you've seen before?
I've never seen anything like this before. No, this is unprecedented, and in its scope. Usually when something is going wrong, it affects a certain number of people, a certain part of our country, or a certain socioeconomic group. But this is hitting everybody, and it's hitting everybody in an asymmetrical way. So everybody's struggling, but almost everybody is struggling with something different. And so it feels very, it's like you can look out the window and everything seems normal, but in the background that it's not normal. And people don't feel like they can communicate or rally together for one thing to make it better or to help it make sense. So there's this sort of I think people feel adrift and tired, because being scared for a long period can make you very tired. So I think it's just a lot of people at loose ends and just looking to connect.
Didi, you've been telling us about how you have more subscribers, you're working harder at this point, but does that also lead to extra stress and tiredness for you? How is it for you personally now?
Personally, at first it did, but then we had to get more staff so we could actually just equally do our work properly. So we do have more people on ground. So it's not as bad as it seems. And then having to pair people up in groups have made it so much easier.
Carolyn.
People in my community are really rallying and being supportive. And so the live discussions, for example, can turn around if I'm feeling low, just having people weighing in and looking out for each other and offering such good insights and a good sense of community has actually been really helpful. So it's kind of along two tracks. It's, yes, this is really difficult. I'm tired. I'm stressed too, just like anybody else. But at the same time, it's put me in touch with some of the things that I find most rewarding about my life.
relationship advisors Didi Edet in Lagos and Carolyn Hacks in Washington, D.C. on the many different stories they're hearing in this time of pandemic. Next, we'll hear about an unintended whirlwind romance between two young lovers who weren't expecting a lockdown love life together.